Hi guys, it's Jean here. Welcome to my channel. So by now I would have posted up my videos on my journey from trying to have a baby to falling pregnant and my whole pregnancy. It has been a very long journey. It wasn't the easiest, so I'm really happy that I'll be able to share. I can share these with you guys. At the same time, I know it's a bittersweet moment for a lot of people that may not like these videos because they may be struggling themselves, but I wanted to share this because I know the hardship, how hard it is for some people. And even though mine was somewhat of a success story, you know, my tip and advice is don't give up. I know, you know, as much as some people may feel like you don't want to watch these videos, but you feel like you want to just because you're in that moment of wanting to have a kid, that as much as you try not to stress or not look into it, your eyes just kind of get drawn into it. So, you know, I'm not doing these to offend anyone or to hurt anyone, but at the same time, just have faith, like just believe in yourself. And the most advice I can give is just relax, take it as it is, and don't feel like, don't make it a burden on yourself that it's your fault that things aren't happening, because I believe that within time things will happen. If things were meant to be, it will meant to be. So that being said, you may notice in my last video when I shared the third trimester, it was a little bit of an unexpected turn at the end, and yeah, so as much, I know a lot of people say that when you're pregnant, you know, there are things to expect, things to not expect, or you can research on a lot of things and things don't exactly turn your way, and that was kind of what happened. So in this video I'm going to share my birth story in what happened, because she actually came out a lot earlier than we thought. So yeah. So my last video, trimester 3, I'll leave all the links down below as well to watch the other videos if you haven't. They are very long, I do apologise. I'm trying my hardest to keep things short, but I just tend to blabber on a lot. So yeah, the last video ended at about 35 weeks. So basically, to recap, what happened was my grandma passed away when I was 34 weeks. And because she was old, it was kind of expected, but all that emotions, you know, they still come through unexpectedly. And it wasn't really a long funeral, like wait kind of thing. Like, she passed away on a Tuesday, and on the Saturday we had her funeral. I was a bit worried because I know superstition and stuff, especially from an Asian culture, I'm not sure whether it's all cultures, is, you know, they say you shouldn't go to a funeral when you're pregnant and things like that. But I saw it as, you know, it doesn't make any difference. I would regret it if I didn't go, and also, you know, regardless of whether I go to a funeral or not, I will still be upset and not in the greatest state of mind. So I went to the funeral. The following Thursday was my cousin's wedding, and then the Friday she was born. So that was kind of like the gist of what has happened. Based on why she came early, I'm not sure. Well, I don't know whether because of my emotional state of my grandma's passing played a big role into it. I believe me trying to fall pregnant may have been my state at that time last year, going through depression and stuff, which was why I was struggling. So I have my belief is that because of all the stress and stuff from my grandma's funeral was why she came early. But just down to specific events of what happened. So on my 34th week, actually just after my 34th, almost 35th week, on the Monday, so the Saturday was a funeral, and then the Monday I went and got some ultrasounds done, and also saw my OB on the Monday as well. So that would have been the 24th of September. I went and got some ultrasounds done. Now the ultrasounds, I've been getting regular like ultrasounds from my OB when I see her, but I haven't really got any official ultrasounds. It's just her doing a quick scan to check to see if everything is okay. But in terms of ultrasounds, I got one at 10 weeks, 12, 13 weeks, 20 weeks, and then now at 34 weeks. And at my ultrasound, so I went to that appointment first, and the guy did the scans and did the measurements and found that Nugget was, actually actually a lot smaller. So the whole pregnancy I expected to have a slightly bigger baby because of the gestational diabetes. So I was expected that if anything, she may be due early, like at 38 weeks, because of the diabetes. She may be bigger than normal. But on the 34 weeks, like it was just before the 35th, yeah, I went to the ultrasound, and it was weird because he was like, okay, so the baby's good, it's growing, like, you know, it's within the percentile, which is between like I think 10 and 90%. So she was within the percentile. However, she did appear smaller than expected. So I was like okay with the whole thing. Like I felt that with all things aside, I was okay, like feeling pretty good with the whole pregnancy, like, you know, trying to, I guess, move on from my grandma's passing, like try to focus on her, the baby coming out. But then I started, like, I didn't expect to be told that she was smaller, and because I didn't have like regular ultrasounds, like they couldn't determine whether she's slowly growing or whether she's kind of stopped or settled down a bit. So that was it. She was 17% percentile in terms of like body weight and head circumference. I think it was like within, it was like 17 to 20%, which was still within the normal range, just on the lower end considering I had gestational diabetes. And by then I also started taking insulin. So I started taking it literally like that week within my grandma's passing. I was on 8, like level 8 on my insulin, down to up to like 14 because it just kept creeping up, which was also expected for close towards the end of your pregnancy. So that was weird. And then after that I had an appointment with my OB straight after that appointment, and she looked at it and she was like, you know, yeah, like it's, you know, nothing seems to be wrong. It could just be that, you know, the placenta may be slowing down, because when you're pregnant, obviously your placenta is what supplies nutrients to the baby, filters it out and like provides them their life. But just because you're pregnant for 40 weeks, it doesn't necessarily mean your placenta may be like within that whole range. So your placenta could slow down towards the end, where it could cause a risk to your baby. And technology nowadays, and you know where we are today, it is more safer having the baby out earlier than later. And because we couldn't determine the growth, my OB suggested that I do regular monitoring. So every week I was booked in to go get official ultrasounds. I was booked in to get a Doppler, I think that's what it's called, a test, and then another ultrasound within the next 2 weeks. And she also sent me to get some CTG scans. So CTG scans is when they hook you up with like a device that monitors the heart rate of the baby. So that was on a Monday, and I was booked in on the Wednesday to go to the hospital to get that done. And then pretty much then play by ear. So what she told me was that, you know, it could be that either the placenta's slowing down, not giving Nugget the nutrients anymore, we may need to take her out earlier. At this stage, you know, we're looking at definitely around the 38-week mark of giving birth then. But we'll have to see how it goes. So that was the plan. And then on Wednesday, I finished work on that day as well. So I left early and went straight to the hospital and got hooked up for my CTG scan, which was not as intimidating as it sounds. Like all that did was just kind of like, you know, hook you up and like put like these little pulse things on you to monitor the heart rate. And what happened is, it's kind of like a lie detector. I had those like scanning like those machines that printed out like those little heartbeats. I don't know, I'm really bad explaining, but anyways, so that's what was happening. And within sometimes it depends. Like I did research it before I went in, and your baby could be either active or non-active, one of those. Anyways, so basically the session could go for half an hour to an hour depending on how active your baby is. Obviously the more active the more better, but the less active means that there could be a problem. So I was in there for a whole hour. Even though her rate was going as normal, there was a couple of times where she dropped. And I obviously don't know what to expect. I did a little reading on it, but didn't look into it further because I didn't want to also worry myself. And then the nurse made a call to my OB just to give her an update, saying, you know, look, there's been a couple of times, like twice, that the heart rate dropped. And then she got off the phone and told me, okay, the OB will come and see you. So she's, you know, she'll be there in like, I think I went for like 2:30 appointment, and she said that the OB will be at 4 o'clock. So Then she moved me into a birthing suite, which I thought was weird, and like my heart was kind of like, what is going on? Because, you know, well, I didn't understand why. Like, I was in a regular couch just doing the monitor, and then they moved me to the birthing suite. She even put me on a wheelchair and wheeled me in, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't know whether I should be freaking out or not. So they moved me to a birthing suite, and I was hooked up to the CTG scan there again, and I just waited. I waited for 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock before she finally came. And at that point I was kind of annoyed. Like, why say 4 when you just, like, you know, when you get there at 6? Like, all doctors kind of appointments, like, always delayed. But then, you know, it makes sense. Like, she's an obstetrician. She actually had emergency cesarean, which is why she was late. So, okay, I understand. Anyway, so she finally came in and saw me at 6 o'clock. So by then I was there for like more than 4 hours. And she said, yeah, look, that's fine, just go home. I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand why I had to wait there for so long. It looked like the heart rate, like, it dropped twice. The heart rate dropped twice within the whole 4 hours I was there. May have dropped maybe a couple times more, I'm not sure. But anyway, so she told me, look, just, we're gonna have to do regular CTG scans to come in tomorrow or the next day, just so we can keep an eye on it, because it's not common for their heart rates to drop like that. It wasn't, she didn't see it as a risk that she had to come out now, but she just said keep monitoring it, because we do want to try and push her. So I was already 35 weeks by then. Because I had my cousin's wedding on the Thursday, I told her, look, I can't come in tomorrow, can I come in on Friday? But Friday was a public holiday, so I wasn't sure when I could come in, but she said, look, just come in on the Friday if you can't make it tomorrow. So that is what I did. Had my cousin's wedding on the Thursday, and then on the Friday I went back into the hospital to do another CTG scan. This time I went straight to the birthing suite because it was a public holiday, so I didn't have to, you know, it wasn't as much people. So Cal and I went in on the on the Friday. So we went in on the Friday the 28th for a CTG scan, and while we were there for about an hour or two, her heart rate just kept dropping every couple of minutes, not minutes, like maybe like half an hour, like 20 minutes to half an hour, just kept dropping. And it got to the point where it dropped about 8 times, and by I think, I don't know, like even the nurse was kind of, I don't know what, it's just weird, because it's like they'll ask me questions like, you know, is this your first, like, you know, how are you feeling, do you feel any pains, do you feel any contractions? And like for me, like I try to answer as honest and as quick as possible, but I couldn't understand what was happening, because I was worried, because she's like, well, we're gonna have to call her to the OB to come in to see you today. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my god, like I feel so bad, because it was a public holiday, it was her, I know it was her daughter's birthday, and I've called her in, like had to get her to come in. But at the same time, you know what, I paid a lot of money for a private obstetrician, so I'm like, I shouldn't really think like that, but I was like worried that this must be really bad. And the good thing was, like, she did tell us early, just make sure you have everything prepared. So we already had my bags and stuff prepared in the car just in case anything happened. But she came in at about 5 o'clock, and she looked at my results and said, you know what, it's better if we get the baby out sooner than later. So I was like, okay, so when should that happen? And she literally said now. So on Friday the 28th of September, which was a bit over a month before Nugget's due date, we had an emergency C-section, a cesarean. So we were kind of like, I honestly, like, Kang and I did not expect that. Like, we always thought, you know, yeah, she's gonna come early, but later on, like on the 38 weeks, but I was only 35 weeks and 5 days. Yeah, I was 35 and 3 days. So I was kind of worried, because she's still very small. I never really imagined her to be like premature. So I was kind of worried, we didn't know what to expect. And then the whole time, I don't know whether because I was so in shock, like it didn't kick in what was happening. So the whole time we were like, you know, they were putting me through like the theatre, they undressed me, they put all their stuff in me, like the whole time. And even Kang was like, you know, had to get dressed in the scrubs and the, you know, the head cap. Like for both of us, we were just so in shock and numb, like we didn't know what we should, like what to expect. And like as much as we went to the birthing classes, we'll explain all these things, even cesarean, what will happen, we were still like in shock. And the cesarean itself was a really scary experience for me. Well, not, I won't say completely, but it was just, I was just numb. My body was numb. I was in shock. My head was like racing like so fast because I didn't know what was happening, and I expected that the cesarean won't go for long, more recovery will last, but the whole experience was definitely a whole level of anything I've experienced. So for what happened for my cesarean, once we found out that we do have to go in to get it delivered now, we were like, okay. So I got undressed, put on the hospital gown, and then they wheeled me into another room where I met the pediatrician that will look after. It was so weird because it was a public holiday. Everyone was just like popping up out of everywhere. Like, it was pretty quiet at the hospital, but everyone just kept popping up. So I had the pediatrician also sitting there with Kyung, talking to him and then I had the anaesthetist come in and explain himself and his assistant, and then I had another midwife, had had another OB, a couple more midwives, and there were so many people that just kept introducing, but because my mind was in shock, it just didn't register anything. And then once they put all the little like monitors and stuff in me, they then wheeled me into the theatre where they told me to jump on the theatre bed, which I thought was weird because I'm like, why would you hook me up and then I had to jump onto another bed? Wouldn't you just let me jump onto the bed first? Anyway, so, and because I'm a little unco at moving from one place to another, I kind of did like a commander roll over to the theatre bed. And then he said, you're actually facing the wrong way. So I did another half theatre, like commander roll, and he was like, you know, that's the first time I've seen anyone do that. But I'm like, okay. So yeah, I've heard stories about epidurals and like the anaesthetist, like, you know, when they put the serum in your spine, that is the most painful thing. So I was already harping up for like a big pain. So what they do is they, you know, have you, I guess, hunched over on a pillow for support, and then he was very nice. He went through and you know, told me this is just a cold wipe, just to wipe your back, and then he put the needle in, which coincidentally as well, if the Wednesday I went in for the CTG scan, my OB, like I said, was doing a cesarean, emergency cesarean. That's why she was late. And the anaesthetist on that day was actually my cousin's husband. So she actually had him on standby in case I needed to go into emergency. So if I had her on the Wednesday, then I may have had my husband, like my cousin's husband, as my anaesthetist. But I didn't. But anyways, back to the story. So yeah, he put the needle in my spine and it was painful, but for me, because I have a really high pain threshold, it wasn't as painful. It was like pretty much getting a very slow tattoo done in you. But what I experienced after was out of the world. It was like, for me, I imagined a tree and liquid filling up each roots of it. Like, you could feel the liquid going down at the back of your back. And then, so once I was done with the epidural, then they pretty much had me lying down and they put the theatre sheets over so we couldn't see from chest downwards. Cal was in the room as well. He must have just walked in when they started putting the catheter. So the whole time, the epidural I was fine with because I was aware, but once the nurse said that we're going to put a catheter in you, that's when I started to freak out, because my grandma, you know, had the catheter when she was like, you know, going through her last days in hospital, and like when I heard catheter, I freaked out because I'm like, oh my god, ooh, like why would I want to have something stuck up me? Anyways, but then I couldn't feel a thing. So then I knew, okay, so the anesthetic was kind of working, because I was more shit scared about that than anything else that was going to happen. But yeah, Count came in and we sat there. So before, obviously before that day, earlier on, we talked about it when we had our birthing classes, how Count was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be in the room while you're getting cut open and stuff. But because we were so, I think it must have been the adrenaline or something, like we were so in shock that, you know, we just went with the flow with everything. And yeah, so the obstetrician just cut me open, and the whole time, like, they were talking to each other like a normal conversation. Oh, what's for dinner? What are your plans? Because it was AFL footy long weekend as well for the final on Saturday. And for me, like, Kang and I were just like on the other side, just like waiting, and all I could feel was this tugging sensation going on. So I couldn't feel the pain because of the anesthetics, but I did feel everything, like the tugging. It just felt like tugging. And then a couple of minutes passed, and then I heard this squeal, and then my whole head I was like, oh, is that like it's like when you hear the first squeal, it's like that's when it hit me for real that, oh my god, I just had a baby. The whole 8 months was real. Like, I didn't feel like, I was still in shock that we were pregnant and that we were having a baby, but I never thought that this is real, the whole thing is real. So she came out, and then like it was funny because the anaesthetist went to count straight away. Oh, she's out, take a picture. So he jumped up quickly and took a picture, not realizing that my insides were probably all everywhere. But anyway, so that's what happened, and they wrapped her up and put her on my chest. And when I saw her for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, she looked exactly like me. She had my little flat nose and like the fatter upper lip, and I was just mesmerized. Even though she was all purple and gooey, she was the cutest thing, and I can't believe she came out of me. So she was only on my chest for what felt like 5 minutes before they took her away. And Cal went with her, obviously, but because I just had surgery, they had to close me up and put me into recovery. After that, I then went into my suite, my room, private room. And yeah, and it was such a weird experience. Like, I guess it's not like a normal, nothing was really expected because it was emergency cesarean. So the whole time I was waiting for, you know, my expectations was you have a kid, they go in the same room as you, you know, you got to wake up every 3 hours to feed them. But I felt like I didn't get that experience. So because she was born at 6:06 p.m, Cal went with her and I went into my room, and the nurses were coming in and out. And honestly, like, once you've delivered a baby, regardless of whether it's a natural or a cesarean, you lose your dignity completely. There was nurses changing my pad, nurses squeezing the colostrum, trying to get it out of my boobs. There was people going in and out your whole body. Like, I didn't even know what was happening down there. Like, you know, people were just looking under you and seeing if everything was okay. And it was weird. Like, I didn't see her till the next day, and that whole night, like, Count came in and sent me pictures, showed me pictures and stuff. And then he went home to, you know, get Coco, because we were prepared as we can, but we didn't really prepare Coco. So we had to drop him off at one of my girlfriend's house to look after him. So I was there that whole night just in shock. Like, I tried to sleep. The anesthetic was kind of wearing off, but I wasn't in pain because I was so drugged up in so much painkillers. But I tried to sleep, but at the same time, I just kept waking up and looking at pictures of her, because I haven't seen, you know, I only had a good 5 minutes before she was taken away. And the whole time, so the reason why she was an emergency and why her heart rate kept dropping was because she had the umbilical cord wrapped around one of her legs and arms. So we think that's why she was early. And then because she was 35 weeks, she was premature. They took her to the special care nursery where they looked after preemie babies or babies that needed extra care. And it wasn't until the next day where I got up and had a shower. And honestly, shower is the best thing to happen after you've given birth. It just calms you so much, and also you feel clean as well. They wheeled me down to the nursery and I saw her for the first time. So she had to wear a tube in her because of her premature age. She didn't know how to suck yet, so they had to feed her through her nose to go straight to her stomach, and until she learned how to bottle feed or take from the breast, she couldn't leave the nursery. She was in an isolate for the first couple of days just to monitor her temperature because it kept dropping, which I guess all of these I wouldn't have expected. I was in hospital for 5 nights, so 5 days or so I was in there, and the whole time, like, I guess the norm is, you know, that the baby rooms with you and stays with you, but I didn't have that experience because she was in the nursery the whole time. I didn't have any visitors apart from my parents because I felt like it wasn't necessary. She wasn't even with us in our room. And the nursery obviously had other babies there that needed special care, so we didn't really want to bother, you know, bringing a lot of people in. So yeah, so I kind of felt weird with the whole thing. Like, there wasn't much I could really do but go down and see her as much as I can, but at the same time I was so tired and exhausted. I slept most of the time, made the most eating the hospital food. That was all I could really do. And then we went home after 5 nights and she stayed in there for another like she was in there for 3.5 weeks actually altogether. So like I said, the whole time why she had to be in there is because she needed to learn, because she was so young she didn't know how to suck. So eventually they moved her onto the bottle to my breast, and like, you know, until she could feed without the tube for a whole day, that's when they were safe to let her go home. So she, even though she was premature, she was at the right weight to go home. So she was 2.46 kilos. She was so tiny. Like when I first saw her hand, her head was as big as my palms almost. Like she was so tiny but fragile, but at the same time it's like watching her grow is amazing. And so we went home and she was still there, and I'm gonna probably do a separate video on how I felt and the whole, like, the emotions that happened after and what I was going through. But it was really hard having to have her there. We went to the hospital twice a day to see her, but just the whole commuting and everything was really difficult. But we finally have a home, so she's been with us for a bit under a month now. So we took her home just before her due date, so we had a little 1 month celebration for her, which she was able to be at home for. So that is her, I guess, birth story, my birth story. So it still feels so weird, like, telling you the story, because it was such a shock. Like, it wasn't like a normal birth, nothing that we expected at all. The whole time I thought she was going to be a bigger baby, but she came out smaller. You know, the whole jumping into motherhood, you know, getting ready to feed her every 3 hours, getting ready for lack of sleep, and then, you know, learning everything, which we didn't really get to do the traditional way. We kind of had to go through. But the good thing was, because she was in nursery, like the nursery nurses, the midwives, like the nurses there, all the girls were so amazing. They were all like part of the family. They looked after her really well. There was other babies there with other parents, and it was good because for first time parents I got to bond with the other one. So we still have like a group chat together that we keep in touch, and it's a whole lot of learning. But it was good in a way, her being in the nursery. We got to get our hand held throughout the whole thing, ask for questions and help. But obviously when she came home it was a different lot of story. But yeah, it was a really good experience. I'm very grateful for everyone that helped and support us in the nursery, and also family and friends as well, that they're understanding why obviously you couldn't see her straight away because she was in the nursery. But yeah, so I think little Miss is waking up right now, so I'm going to introduce you to her a little bit. I'll be back. So without further ado, this is Miss Isabel. She just woke up from a nap, so she's not exactly little Miss Daisy right now. But yeah, so she is here with us finally. It has been a long time getting to this point. But yeah, so this is, I guess, oh, excuse my glasses fogging up, but this is, I guess, her first social debut. I haven't actually posted anything up online yet, which I will do once this video goes up. I'm very cautious, I guess, with the whole privacy and kids thing. Like, decided that, you know, I'm not going to post a lot of stuff on her online, because I feel like it's her privacy that I'm dealing with. And it scares me now that, you know, kids nowadays, by the time they turn 18, their whole lives are going to be journaled online. So I kind of want to make her have that decision what she wants to do with her life. But yeah, so I've been preoccupied the past couple of weeks, 2 months or so. But yeah, so that is my birthing story and everything. I think Coco is coming upstairs, so I'm going to end this video here. And yeah, so let me know what you thought of the whole journey, if you're in a similar situation or whatnot, how you're going through. But yeah, so that is the end of this video. Hope you liked it. Please give me a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to watch more. Thanks for watching. Bye.